Morning all. All right, so we have two games tonight in the National Hockey League, both of them game ones, of course. Starting at 7 Eastern to 4 Pacific, we have the New Jersey Devils and the Carolina Hurricanes, the Battle of Red and Black, so why not wear a red and black jersey? So Nico Hischier was the number one pick in 2017. Marty Necas was the number 12 pick in 2017, so this is the two of them up against one another. The road team during the regular season won 2 out of 4 games, and I say that because road teams are continuing to own these playoffs. Akira Schmid, 951 save percentage in his appearances. Anderson, of course, came in for that final game of the series against the Islanders, 971 save percentage for him. Small sample size, sure, but still impressive. And so we'll see how that one goes tonight. Let me know your pick in the comment section below. And then at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, we have the Edmonton Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights. This should be spectacular. This series, I really think we're going to see a lot of goals, a lot of chances. It should be a lot of fun because on one side you have the number one draft pick in 2015, Connor McDavid, and on the other side, the number 2 pick, Jack Eichel, meeting in the playoffs. So this is great. This is a fantastic setup right here. The road team won 3 out of 4 during the regular season between these two teams, so it would not surprise me to see the road teams do well in this series. This one here, we'll see, but this one, yeah, road teams should do well. That, of course, New Jersey, one of the best road teams all year. So were Oilers, so were the Vegas Golden Knights. There's something to those road teams. So Skinner, 890 save percentage for him in the first round. Brossoit, 915 save percentage. It felt like his save percentage went up with almost every game. And so, yeah, both teams are doing well and both teams are peaking at the right time. This should be a fun one again. Let me know in the comment section below who you believe will win that game. Edmonton and Vegas. Again, tons of fun. So last night they revealed the Selke finalists. Patrice Bergeron probably wins it. This is viewed as his final season. He is seen as the best defensive forward of his generation, and so I'd be kind of surprised if he doesn't win it. That being said, both players that are up against him are worthy. Nico Hischier of the New Jersey Devils. Devils fans have been waiting years for Nico Hischier to be in this situation, and here he is. So he has a chance at winning his first Selke, and so does Mitch Marner. And I'm glad Marner gets the votes. Now, I know there's Canuck fans mad that Pettersson didn't get into the top 3. I would think Pettersson's probably in the top 10, but I understand why he didn't get top 3. Marner actually played on the blue line at points for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He showed a willingness to learn that. Has really worked on his defensive and just his 200-foot game in general. Really, really solid play by Marner this year. So any of those 3, good picks. Your Lady Byng finalists. This is, of course, for gentlemanly play, usually a player with the least amount of penalty minutes. So you have Jack Hughes, Anze Kopitar, and Braden Point, and we'll see who ends up winning there. Again, it's usually somebody with very few penalty minutes. You're not going to see Jacob Slavin because he had penalty minutes this year. Yeah, had an attitude. At any rate, let me know who you think wins those awards, too, while we're at it. So last night, what we saw was Florida's speed. Now, what's interesting is this. Last year, they rode that speed and transition game. So turnovers, and then really, really quickly down the ice. They rode that to the President's Trophy, and in the playoffs, it didn't work. This year, they changed their game a little bit, but the speed and the transition game are still a big part of what helps get them into the playoffs. And now that same game is working in the playoffs that didn't work last year. They're forcing a lot of turnovers. They are playing really smart hockey. And honestly, Paul Maurice, if he gets the blame for how things were really close to, a missed playoffs for the Florida Panthers, if he gets the blame for them being, below par at times this year, then he deserves every amount of credit for what they're going through right now and for what they're able to do. So we'll see how far the Panthers are able to go. But if they can knock out Toronto, I mean, this field really does look wide open. I've heard others saying it as well. It feels like this year's playoffs, anybody who's remaining could win it. Again, your most recent Stanley Cup winner, still standing, the Carolina Hurricanes from 2006, New Jersey from 2003. Those are your 2 most recent, and they're against each other, so one's going to take the other out. It should be a lot of fun to see who ends up winning, and I do always appreciate a playoffs where things are as wide open as they are this year. And with Florida, a team that's never won a cup, and Seattle, a team that's never won a cup, both up 1-0 in their series. Well, Vegas has never won a cup. Can they go up 1-0 too? Just imagine a Vegas-Seattle conference final. I don't think anybody would have picked that at the start of the year. That just would have been absolutely a bonkers idea. So, doing some light reading this morning, came across a column from Rick Bell, Calgary Sun, talking about the firing of Daryl Sutter and how the players basically whined to get him out of there, and he's a hard-nosed coach, and they should have been able to find the energy to go out there and win some games. I'm going to answer it this way: players have been playing to get coaches fired for as long as I've watched hockey. It's not just going to the GM or going to the team president and saying, yeah, if he's back, we're out of here. It's a matter of players just not playing very well, players not performing the tasks as instructed by the coach. So when a coach is frustrated after a game, he's like, well, I'm teaching them, they're just not listening. That's a bad sign. When a coach is behind the bench and he's freaking out and yelling and screaming and the players don't even react and they just kind of stare blankly, that's a bad sign too, right? Or when you just don't see any communication. I know when Rick Tocchet took over in Vancouver, one thing that really stood out to me was the amount of communication between him and the players. No offense to Bruce Boudreau, but I didn't see nearly as much from Boudreau as I saw from Tocchet. And clearly it worked in Vancouver, at least over the period of time Tocchet was here. And that's the kind of coach Calgary needs. They need a coach that's going to come in and talk to the players and work with the players. With Sutter, it was clear that I'm the boss. I decide, it's my team, and the players didn't like some of what was going on. They weren't enjoying themselves, and they have the right. They have the right to do that. They have the right to say, you know what, we don't like this. This isn't an enjoyable experience. And not only that, but it's not working. So for Daryl Sutter, when the team is winning, the way that he coaches is fine, right? But when the team's not winning, not so much. And it's not the first time we saw this either. We saw it with the LA Kings too, where the LA Kings said he's got to go. They were having closed door meetings and barring him from being at them before LA ultimately let him go. It is too bad that Daryl Sutter didn't have the success in Calgary that he did in LA prior, but full marks to Calgary for listening to their players. It's not really about players being prima donnas and whiners. It's more along the lines of players basically telling the team president, this isn't going to work. This is not going to work. This kind of coaching, this kind of strategy, it's not going to work. You're not going to see better results next year. So the team has a choice between letting go of some key players or just watching things continue to deteriorate or making a change. And the Flames decided to make the change. So, all right, that's my answer to that. I had to throw that into a video today because it's one of those things I read and I was like, I don't think, let's not. I understand the sentiment of, hey, they're paid millions of dollars, go do your job. Yes. However, there are bosses that can teach you to or help you reach your top, and then there are coaches that can't, and they're stating that they had a coach that wasn't going to get the most out of them. So one thing that I've noticed is, of course, there's been a lot of growth on the channel over the last month and a half, and it's great. It's been fantastic. Really, really appreciating it. But there does seem to be some amount of discussion about who I cheer for and which bandwagon I'm on. So the number one team on my list since 1982, Vancouver Canucks. The Vancouver Canucks went to the Stanley Cup final. Yep, I jumped on a bandwagon in 82. Been stuck there since. At what point is it no longer a bandwagon? I guess when the team sucks, so I would have been off the bandwagon the next year. But at any rate, Vancouver has been the number one team for me. Boston's been number two since 1988. Yes, them and Vancouver hate each other. That was years after I started liking Boston because of the Cam Neely deal, because they had Andy Moog. Moog was my favorite goalie. Neely was my favorite player. So I gravitated towards Boston. Plus, I needed a team in the East to cheer for, and my dad's favorite team was Montreal. So what better than Boston? And that made for some fun during the playoffs because Boston met Montreal basically every year. Then in 1981, the team that was initially my favorite team would have been the Minnesota North Stars. They made a Stanley Cup final run and got beaten by the Islanders that year. So it's the Minnesota North Stars, and then when they moved to Dallas, that fandom of mine went to Dallas, despite not having a fandom of the team's ownership at the time that they moved from Minnesota to Dallas. Not because Minnesota wasn't supporting the team, but because there was definitely some ownership there that, wasn't great. But at any rate, those are the three teams. And then, of course, I'm going to have teams I'm rooting for in basically every game because hockey's more fun that way. If you sit down to watch a game and you're like, I don't really care who wins, I've had those days, and then generally I don't pay as much attention to the game. There is an emotional investment for me in almost every game I watch. The interesting thing is, outside of the top three, people very often on the channel will get it wrong. I've seen it. He clearly hates this team. And they're wrong. But those three are the big ones, and that's kind of well known. I've seen the arguments I'm not allowed to cheer for more than one team at a time. That's incorrect. Vancouver plays Boston twice a year. Vancouver plays Dallas 3 times a year. Dallas plays Boston twice a year. I only have a conflict very, very few times during the season, and those games are usually a lot of fun to watch. I've watched Vancouver-Boston and Vancouver-Dallas games in person. They're a lot of fun to watch because whichever team wins, I'm probably pretty happy. But all right, there you go. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.